Okay, Shalom Akim, Kal Halarim La Yahweh Hashem Yahshua Bashem Rakha Kodash, and double honors to great and apostles, Thal Yahshua for the strength in order to make this video, and Yara Tazar, that are also edified, which means built up, and also exalted, which means encouragement. When we say Kal Halalim La, we're saying all praises to. Kal means all, Halalim means praises, La means to. And when we say Yahweh Hashem Yahshua, we're saying Yahweh, which is the Most High's true name in the ancient Hebrew, and Yahweh means he is, he exists, or he is to be. Bahashem means in the name. Ba means in. Ha means the. Sham, S-H-A-M. Sham means the name. And when we say Yahweh Shai, we're saying the name of our Savior, man, the one who will deliver us from this kingdom, which we say Yahweh Tazah, that we are those men, which means Yahweh willing, Yahweh Tazah, Yahweh willing that we are those men of whom will gain the salvation that Yahushua has offered us the opportunity for, which really is predestination at the end of the day, because it's all the Most High's will. But nevertheless, we say Yahweh Tazah, man. We keep doing the works of the elect in order to expect that salvation. Again, Yahweh Tazah. So, Bahashem Yahushua, in the name Yahushua. When we say Bahashem Rahak Kodash, we're saying in the name Spirit Holy. Rahak means Spirit. Kodash means holy, which means through the Holy Spirit, that's how we get to Yahushua, and then through Yahushua, that's how we get to Yahweh, that's how we get the mercy of Yahweh, ultimately. So, as I named the video, this is the Revelation 13 breakdown, and Yara Tazah, that you will understand what I'll be teaching here, because of course I realized after actually studying it that this is actually a very deep chapter, man. Like, you gotta know some history as well, of course, root words too. So just to make it digestible, I'll do what I can in this one, Yara Tazah, in the part one, then I'm gonna make a part two as well, like probably around halfway in the verses, man, just to keep it digestible. So to begin with, Revelation 13, of course, this is the main scripture that we always bring out, especially verses 16 to 18, because that's talking about the mark of the beast, man, but we're going to do the full thing. But first, in this part one, Yara Tazah, I'm going to do from around verses 1 to about verse 10, which is roughly halfway. And then the part 2, I'm going to do from verse 11 to the ending, which is Revelation chapter 13, verse 11 to 18. Alright, so to begin with, Revelation, let me just close this window to dampen the noise. So that you can hear me clearly. Of course, I will raise my voice a little bit more so you can hear me as well. So Revelation 13 and verse 1. And I stood, so, just for context here as well, this is John the Revelator, who was receiving visions, given of the Most High Yahweh, telling him this is what's going to happen in the latter end. And he was in the Isle of Patmos. So he was, on the island, called Patmos, and he was surrounded by a sea as well. That's just for context. So, he was receiving the vision of the mark of the beast. So let's begin with. So Revelation 13 and 1. And I stood, so this is John the Revelator speaking. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. So of course, when we see here where it says and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, that beast really represents NATO and the EU. NATO, of course, America includes America is included in the NATO, organization, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, but America alone is not the beast. That's the thing, so we've got to clarify that. The beast is the NATO and the EU countries all together combined, which creates that system, that will be used to implement the mark of the beast, man. So, and then the sea, where it says and saw a beast rise up out of the sea. So that's the sea represents people, kindreds, and these other nations. So out of all the other nations, that's when the NATO and the EU countries then came out of the sea, which is the people, the nations. It says having 7 heads and 10 horns, which the 7 heads actually represent it represents the Greeks, I think Germanium Major, Germanium Minor, French, Great Britain as well, and what else was there? There was another one too. I gotta check my notes again. Slovakia. Don't go get it right when I'm breaking it down, man. But the 7 heads. Now I mentioned some of them. Says here, hold on, let me see again. It says out of the sea having 7 heads and 10 horns. So it's the 7 heads, which is where this beast then came from. Let me just bear with me. So the 7 heads, as I wrote here, is the Greeks, the Romans, Germanian Major, Germanian Minor, French, Spanish, and the British, man. So that's what the 7 heads represent, man. It says, and the 10 horns, and upon his horns the 10 crowns. So of course the 10 horns represents the EU nations, and of course they were given power as well, in order to help build up that system, which will be used in support of the beast system, of the beast, which again is the NATO and the EU. So the 10 horns are the EU nations, man. Which of course originally 10. I think it's I need to actually search this up on my phone, because they say originally there were 6, but then you had some other ones that joined in initially to then create that 10 as well. I believe Greece, Spain, and Portugal were in it. Denmark as well, Belgium, and some other ones. But let me search it up just for the edification. Hold on. And even Spain and Portugal, they were somewhat one at some point, with the Iberian Empire, where Philip II actually was in rule over Portugal, because they didn't have a king at that time in the 1500s, if I recall correctly. Actually, let me double check. Yeah, 1580. So around the 1500s, 1580, when Portugal's throne became vacant, Spain under Philip II asserted its claim and united the crowns of Spain and Portugal in a personal union. So that Spain and Portugal joined the EU, they could be counted as one. So that's one thing. But let's actually get the list of the EU nations here. The first, hold on. First nations in the EU, because it tells you 6, but there's still more after that as well. Hold on. So the first countries of the EU, that's what I'm trying to search up right now. Because it mentions there in the AIOV Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, and Netherlands. And as I said, if you then research later for the other ones that were joined, it says, hold on. You had, I won't get too deep into it. You could do your own research as well. But it says 6 core states, and eventually there was Greece that joined. There was Greece that joined. Denmark again was part of it, and what else? Spain and Portugal as well. So all of those nations there would have represented the initial EU, which was, I think, was called the EEC, and that represented. Let me search up what EEC stood for. EEC. Which EEC stands for European Economic Community. So that was like the economic side of the beast as well. And of course NATO, you can liken that onto the military side too. So that was the 10 horns, the 10 crowns right there. They were given rulership and power to help, of course, uplift the beast as well. It says, and upon it says the name of blasphemy, man. Because of course Esau Edom, as he was in this rise, he would be the one of whom will speak against the saints of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, cover the faces of judges, and all of that. So, let me see something. See if I can get a quick precept as well in support of that. But sure, just bear with me. I'll be going up and down, with the scriptures, and obviously with research as well, so that you can actually understand the breakdown. So let's see. So I want to get a precept in it. Okay. Alright, let's see. 2 Thessalonians, if it be so. So this is 2 Thessalonians 2 and verse 4. Who opposeth, this is referring to Esau Edom, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called the Most High, or that is worshipped, so that he as the Most High sitteth in the temple of the Most High, showing himself that he is a power. So that's Esau's, of course, ambition to be like the Most High, as we know in Isaiah 14 verse 14. So that is also where it mentions in Revelation 13 and 1, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy, man. So they were doing things of which would get the Most High angry, which is transgression against the Most High. So, essentially putting his name in vain also. So, hold on. It says in verse 2, Revelation 13 and 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So to break that one down, again, the beast, NATO and the EU, we know that. And it says, which I saw was like unto a leopard, because really that beast, coming out of the sea, we know that it says like unto a leopard. Leopard represents that Greek empire, man. Greece. The Greek Empire, Asian one, not the modern day Greece, the Asian one. Now it says, and his feet were like as the feet of a bear. So of course the bears represents the Russians as well. Just to clarify that the bear represents the Russians. And where it says the feet, that represents really the downfall of these empires, man. It says, and his feet were as the feet of the bear. Which really, if we even get deeper into that, we get into. Let me get Ezekiel 38. Gog and Magog are references to Russia. The Most High will also use Russia to defeat this beast too. And even just Russia alone, in its own, I guess in its former glory days, during the Soviet Union, the USSR, which began 1922 to 1991, which was the fall of it. That was the time where Russians were actually being domineering, man. And of course, NATO, in fact, the reason why NATO was created was to be as a defense against these Russians as well. So, Russia does have its role to play when it comes to the defeat of Babylon, aka America. So that feet, it says the feet, the head typically represents like the start of the empire, the peak, the pinnacle of it. Then the feet represents the fall, the downfall of the empire. So it says, in Revelation 13 and 2 again, and the beast, NATO and the EU, which I saw was like unto a leopard, the Greek empire. I'm gonna get precepts for that. And it says, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. So let me get the one about bear, since I was just talking about it. Then I'm gonna get the ones that refer to the Greek empire as well. Alexander the Great during that time, man, where because the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, these were empires of which Edomites ruled. So let's get it. Ezekiel 38. And I think, hold on. Verse 1 to 3 is the key part. Maybe verse 1 to 4, yeah, verse 1 to 4. So Ezekiel 38 and verse 1, and the word of the Most High of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, which Gog just refers to Russia. Magog means from Gog, so it really refers to the people within Russia anyways. So, and the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against them, and says, and say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh the Most High, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, which the Russians anyways, they're also Edomites too. So this is that, Edom against Edom here. So, and I'll turn thee back. So this is Ezekiel 38 and verse 4. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses, horsemen, all of them, clothed with all sorts of armor, even as a great company, with bucklers and shields, and all of them handling swords. So the Most High is going to prep, Gog and Magog, man, to fight for war. So of course they will also be used against America, man, Babylon the Great. So verse, back to Revelation 13:2. So that's the feet of the bear part, which, Russia had their own Soviet Union, they fell. The Greek Empire, they also fell too. But it says in Revelation 13:2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. So the Greek Empire, that leopard part, I'm going to get another precept on that too. There's quite a few precepts on it. But let's start off with one of the four beasts. Because one of the four beasts was a leopard. And that leopard represents Greece. So let's get Daniel. Alright, so Daniel chapter 7. It should be verse 6. So Daniel 7 and verse 6. So this is Daniel. So I'm trying to turn the page here. By the way, Salakia means forgive me. Salak means forgive, and then Yah means me. So forgive me means Salakia. So whenever you hear brothers say Salakia, it means forgive me, or it's like saying I'm sorry, but in the ancient Hebrew. So now you know, if any new brothers out there. So Daniel chapter 7, and I said around verse 6. Yeah, just getting straight to the part. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. So of course that fourth beast, of course this is another breakdown, so that's going to be for a separate video, man. But that really goes into like 4 major rulers of the Greek Empire. But anyways, the leopard there is reference to the Greek Empire. And that precept, Daniel 7 and 6, also links to Revelation 13:2, where it says, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. Because of course the Greek Empire, that was really the beginning of the mites of East or Eden. But what they actually are replicating in today's age was actually the Roman Empire, which came after. But focusing on the Greek, Daniel 7 and 6 mentioned the leopard as it says here, the 4th beast. Daniel 7 and 6, and after this I beheld, lo, another like a leopard. So that was the 4th beast. Where he mentioned, hold on. After this I saw the 4th returns. 2, 3. Actually, that was the 3rd beast. Yeah, Salakia. That was actually the 3rd one. But the point is, verse 6 where it says the leopard, that's talking about the Greek Empire, which is one of the 4 beasts. That is also linked into Revelation 13:2, where it says was like unto a leopard. So let's get another precept as well to support that. And that Greek Empire, let me hold on, let me get this precept here. Because that Greek Empire, of course, even to today's age, it has some influence too. But the majority of influence is from that Roman Empire. Where is it? I think it's in... hold on. Trying to get straight to the point. Just so you know. Alright, let's see. I know there was something mentioned there. Just hold on, bear with me. before I get this preset, let me get this one I already have in my mind. So Habakkuk 1 and verse 8. Habakkuk chapter 1. Hold up. So this is Habakkuk chapter 1 and verse 8. So Habakkuk 1 and verse 8. It says their horses were swifter than the leopards. Again, another reference to the Greek Empire. The leopard could be seen as a representative of the Greek Empire, as we know in Daniel 7 and verse 6. And are more fierce than the evening wolves, and their horsemen shall spread themselves, and their horsemen shall come from far. They shall fly as the eagle that hasteth to eat. So of course it shows you that it was the same group of people that also is ruling in today as well. Because remember, America is rooted from the eagle. The eagle is a symbol for America. The eagle was also a symbol for Rome as well. And the Greeks were also Edomites. The Greeks, the Romans, the modern day Americans, the ones that are ruling them are the Edomites, man. So let me just check one more thing as well. Just gotta check this one more thing, because I'm not too sure if Greece had a symbol of an eagle too. Symbol, I don't know. Okay. Hold on. I want to know what it was represented as. Because in the Greek gods, I'm reading here, the eagle was also used to represent the god of Zeus, which is obviously one of the so-called idols, the gods of the so-called gods, which are idols of Greece, man, which they used the eagle to represent the power as well. It says Zeus in the AIOV. Zeus, the king of the gods, is often associated with the eagle, symbolizing his power and majesty. He can also be linked to the bull and the swan, reflecting his various mythological transformations. So the point is, the Greeks would have used the symbol of the eagle. Majority of it was really on the Roman Empire, and that Roman Empire is now reflecting on America, of which is also uses the eagle as a symbol as well. Even with the bald eagle as well being used, even Trump's hair be looking like a darn flipping eagle too, man. So that's the point there. There's a little thing that certain bros may have noticed. So onto the leopards. Also, another interesting thing about the leopard as well that further supports the fact that the leopard represents the Greece is the fact that what's his name, Alexander the Great. Check one more thing here. Alexander the Great actually he wore lion skin, but he also had leopard skin as well. Which just bear with me, hold on. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, what I need to search up as well was this image right here. Hold on. This image right here, that's a depiction of Alexander the Great, man. And you can see that leopard skin, which he's used to portray, he's portrayed as, that leopard skin. So that's also a further sign of him being in being the leopard representing the Greece, essentially, in Revelation 13 and 2. So that was there. I also wanted to get another precept as well as Habakkuk 2. There was another one. First Maccabees. Hold on. was the second Maccabees? Let me check both of them. It should be first Maccabees. Yeah, first Maccabees 1 verse 7 to 8. So Alexander, Alexander the Great, it says reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule everyone in his place, man. So of course this was the Greek Empire which was ruling, man, and Alexander was the one to set that all up. Let me get one more precept before I move on. As I said, this one's going to be a deep one, man. That's why sometimes I gotta refer back to the notes if it'd be very heavy. So Daniel 7, or is it Daniel 7? Hold on, what am I saying? Daniel. Let's check this. Verse 20. Hold on. You know what? If it ain't so, then I'm gonna just continue, because I know I've already brought out those precepts, but I know there's probably one more. Okay. Yeah, because this is like this is what the scriptures say, precept upon precept, man. Isaiah 28 verse 10. Because we need these other precepts, to support this breakdown of Revelation 13. And of course, the breakdown of Daniel 7, Daniel 8, Yaratazar, I'll do those also eventually too. But, little by little, step by step, man. So let's see. Just want to get straight to the key part, man. Oh, finally. So Daniel chapter 8 and 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came through the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. So of course that he-goat is referring to, if I recall correctly, Greece, of course, when the empire came, and that notable horn is referring to Alexander the Great. He really began it all. Before you had these other the four men below him, which would have been used to continue the empire. But yeah, that was the beginning of that Greece empire, man. So they are the leopard. Once more, got the image right here of Alexander the Great. Brought out the three sets, Daniel 7 and 6. Habakkuk chapter 1, about verse 8, and also Daniel 8 and about verse 5. So quite a few precepts, man. Now let's continue. Revelation 13 and 2. And the beast which I saw, again, beast being NATO and the EU, was like unto a leopard, the Greek empire, and the feet were as the feet of a bear. We read it in Ezekiel 38. That's Russia. And his mouth and the feet again represents the downfall of a kingdom. That's what it means. So as the mouth of a lion, and that lion represents the Great British Empire, which really the Great British Empire started around the 1500s, ended mid 1960s. So around early 20th century. So the mid 1960s, that's when the empire just it was done for. So it says on his mouth as the mouth of a lion, man, because that's the influence that the British Empire also had as well. So all of this is the type of power that's attributed. That of the leopard, the Greek Empire. That of the feet of the Russian Empire. I say the Russian Empire, but of Russia, and Russia will be used to defeat Babylon as well. You gotta remember that. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion. So that represents Great Britain. And Great Britain be the one of whom what's it called? You really had that domineering empire between the 1500s and 1960s. Which after that, there was well, I said after that, but that was the long-lasting empire, and then the latter side of that, as I said, 1922 to 1991. That's when the Soviet Union began their own form of little rulership, I should say. So but they also fell too. So hence it says at the feet of a bear. It says and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. Great Britain. That's what it means. So that beast, that NATO and the EU will also have influence as well, as Great Britain had. And the dragon gave him his power. So it gave the beast, the NATO and the EU power, and his seat and great authority. That really, the dragon represents the Roman Empire, which was used to influence the, what was it used to influence? To influence the beast. So okay, you gotta take it step by step with this, man. As I say, it's a deep chapter. So the dragon represents the Roman Empire, and that Roman Empire has influence upon the beast, which is NATO and the EU. Hence why the certain way that they do things, it goes back to Rome in terms of its origin. It says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. That was the downfall of the Roman Empire. That quote right there where it says, heads as it were wounded to death. That wounded to death was really the downfall of the Roman Empire. And it says, and his deadly wound was healed. That deadly wound being healed is the Roman Empire being revived as America. That's what it is. It says, and all the world wondered after the beast, man. So of course they followed after the ways of the beast, which is again the NATO and the EU. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power onto the beast. So they worshipped that, in the Roman Empire. They were giving reference to that without even realizing it. Which gave power to the beast, again NATO and the EU. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him. So that coalition of NATO countries and the EU countries all being one, which realistically, if you really research about the Treaty of Rome, that's when that unified mindset actually came in. Hence the link to the dragon, which is the Roman Empire, because that's the influence that's the influence that they had upon these the NATO and the EU, which again, the 10 horns, and of course the 7 heads as well. So which again, the 10 horns again represented the EU nations, the original 10. You can say that. So yeah, verse 5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, hold on. Oh yeah, he was able to make war with him. Yeah, verse 4 where it says he was able to make war with him, because America has that military might in order to which really puts fear upon the people, man. I mean, right now, of course, it's diminishing, but the point is it still has that military might. The EU side, those 10 horns, they're the ones who really sort out the economic side of the beast system. The economic side, and you got the military side, which is like America and then Canada as well. So that part there, Treaty of Rome, then unified them. So verse 5, Revelation 13 and 5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things, blasphemies, and power was given to him unto him to continue 40 and 2 months, man. So of course Esau was given which the 40 and 2 months doesn't represent 42 months. It represents 350 years. Because if you actually think about it, where there was I'm trying to think about this. When the first slaves came through, this is when Babylon, America. Let me read it again. It says, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. We read it in 2 Thessalonians 2 and verse 4. Blasphemies that the Esau Edom will be committing. He wants to be like the Most High, Isaiah 14:14. And blasphemies and power was given unto him to continue 14 and 2 months. But there was a time where Esau Edomites were actually they were in the gutter, man. They were in the caves. That rulership of the pagan Roman Empire ended, around Actually, well, yeah, it ended, but then it went on to Jake ruling, which is the Byzantine Empire, the Dark Ages, the so-called Holy Roman Empire, which is the Western Roman Empire, aka the ones with the Edomites. That's the Eastern. No, yeah, I did in reverse. The ones with the Edomites, the pagan Roman Empire, before the Dark Ages then started to come in, the Byzantine Empire. Before that, that was the Western Roman Empire, aka the one with Jake ruling, the Holy Roman Empire. That was the Eastern Roman Empire. So, where it says continue 40 and 2 months, because if we actually consider it from the age where the first slave, the first slaves brought in to America, that was in 1669, and from the end of hold on. You gotta bear with me. Sometimes you gotta recall the facts correctly. So 1619. I think there was also one thing as well where is it? Because it was the time where there was the birth of the nation, the time where the slaves were, and the time where there was the birth of the nation, which was, I think it was 1969. Hold on, let me even check that quickly. 1969. 1629. Something that was it. 1639. Hold on. Let me just double check quickly. So, yeah, man. So 1619. That's when the first slave ships came through, or the first slaves came into America. Then, when the truth then began, the truth in terms of the unsigned the scriptures being revealed unto the first men, hence why we give double honors to the great and apostles. Of course, their teachers of whom are taught them, for example, High Priest Ariel, Elder High Priest Yaquab, and King Mashar as well. Those being one of the men of whom actually received the truth initially, of whom really sparked the awakening of the Israelites, for those of us who can be awakened by this truth. So that difference, the years between 1619, when the first slaves came through, of course we were in ignorance, we didn't even know Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, up to the point where we were reminded of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua 1969, or slash 1970, but 1969, that time period there, 1619, first slaves coming in, to 1969, the first time where the truth then came out, that's 350 years. So that's the 40 and 2 months, man. Where it says continue 40 and 2 months. So, Esau was allowed to speak blasphemies and do all sorts of shit. Essentially still afflict Jake as well. And have that corruptive influence upon these other nations too. So let's continue on. In Revelation 13 and 6, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against the Most High. We already mentioned that. To blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwelt in heaven. So of course, Esau, Edom, we gotta remember that hold on. Yeah, we gotta remember that Esau, Edom was actually doing things in order to piss off the Most High. That's really the simplest way that I can put it. To blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwelt in heaven, man. So let's get First Maccabees. So this is First Maccabees 3 and verse 48. And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen, again these are also Edomites, Edomites are heathens, has sought to paint the likeness of their images. So that's all part of the corruption of the Most High, and of course the corruption of the things of which the Most High has blessed upon Israel, and the temple and the tabernacle, as it says here, that dwelt in heaven. Now it says in verse 7, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints. The saints represent Israelites, and to overcome them. The power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. You know, we're speaking of kindreds, tongues, and nations. And I said the sea also represents people and nations as well, which the beast came out of. You know, and just to get another precept to support that, this is Revelation 17, about 17 of verse 5. Revelation 17 of verse 5, it says here, actually, hold on, not verse 5, verse 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, the peoples are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So of course those waters, that sea represents the people. So that refers back to Revelation 13 and verse 1. And also here in Revelation 13 and verse 7. Where it says, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations, man. So Esau had that power, man. It says, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb. You know, slain from the foundation of the earth. So that's essentially going into, you know, those who, in the time to come, of whom don't take the mark of the beast, they will be killed. Hence the mindset where it says in the scriptures, strive for the truth unto death, man. You know, but first of all, I want to see, I feel as if there was a point that I need to make as well, so I gotta pause, man. So, and he opened his mouth to blaspheme against the Most High. Let's see, so we've got First Maccabees 3 and 48. You know, that was the point there. I want to see something else as well, hold on. I think Daniel 7 and 21. Yeah, come on. Let's see this. Yeah, I knew it. So Daniel 7 and 21. I'll read Revelation 13 and 7 again. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, the Israelites, and to overcome them. A precept to support that is Daniel 7 and verse 21. It says, I beheld the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. You know, so of course these Edomites, you know, again, they had the empire of the Greeks, the Romans, of course, modern day America as well. They're the ones of whom had really making war with the Israelites, man. Of course, they put us into captivity. Now we'll get into that. It says, and power was given unto him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And you can even see it right now, man, with the NATO and the EU system of the beast. You know, you gotta have the SWIFT system, you know, which is the payment system of which globally countries trade with the SWIFT system, the SWIFT banking system, and of course, yeah, that's one way of which, of course, they control the nations. They have power over them. Freedom economically, they have power over them. You know, in terms of obviously military might as well, quite literal power that they have over the nations, man. You know, but again, the nations will say, "Let the weak say, I am strong." Revelation, you know, Joel 3 and about verse 22. So of course they have their own nuclear missiles which are going to be used towards Babylon. All right, so and all that dwell, so verse 8, Revelation 13 and 8, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose name, so of course they're going to worship the beast via taking the mark, man, via listening and obeying the beast. You know, whatever the NATO and the EU declare, which is going to be that mark of the beast, the chip. That's how people are going to worship that the beast. You know, again, NATO and the EU. So whose names are not written. So it says, and all that dwell on earth, so they're living on earth right now, shall worship him via the chip, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, you know, slain from the foundation of the world. So of course, those who reject it, so that's talking about the elect here, the elect of Yahweh Hashem Yahshua, those who reject the mark of the beast, they will have to be killed. Some of us will have to be killed. You know, so that's you know, as I mentioned, strive to the truth strive to the truth unto death, man. I'm gonna try and get down quickly. I'm just gonna search it up. and get it done. Yaratazar, that you're understanding it so far also, so that I can, so that I know I've made myself clear in, what these things mean, supporting precepts as well. And of course, there'll be other supplementary videos, Yaratazar, maybe when getting into history, to support this breakdown, gradually over time. So, hold on, what precept was I even going to get? I was going to get a precept. Oh yeah, strive to truth unto death. So let's see this. Hold on. Strive truth. Just bear with me. It says, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, which of course, that's really Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai's elect. They're going to be slain from the foundation of the world. And that really links to, I'm going to get another precept on that. But first, let me get this first precept here. So this is Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach, chapter 4, verse 28. Strive for the truth unto death, and the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai shall fight for thee. So of course we gotta strive for the truth unto death, man. So even if our bodies are literally made a living sacrifice, we gotta abide by that, man. The point is our bodies are temporary anyway, so they're gonna change. And nevertheless, it says the Lord Yahweh will fight for thee. And remember, there's still spiritual intervention, man. Not to get off topic, but of course in that time to come, spiritual power can come, angels can come, to save you in that moment, man, which Yahweh will then send to your aid. Some of us literally have to die. So that's what I'm referring to when I say in verse 8, in the book of life, I'll read it again, Revelation 13 and 8, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, which is the elect. The elect's names are written in the book of life of the Lamb, which is the Lamb is Yahushua, because he was the only one being able to open that book. So slain from the foundation of the world, man, because again the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets, man. So the prophets that died before, for rejecting the Roman system, they're going to die again for rejecting this Babylon system. So that's really what that's referring to. As I said in Ecclesiasticus 4 and 28, strive for the truth unto death, and that's the mindset that they will have. All right, 1 Corinthians. Let's get the 1 Corinthians one. 1 Corinthians 14 and 32. It says 1 Corinthians 14 and 32, and the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets. So whatever a prophet did in terms of dying, whatever they did in terms of prophesying, of course, they're going to do the same thing again in this lifetime. But of course, they're going to die as well. If it be, I said if it be so, but really, of the Most High as well, because a prophet is subject to a prophet, essentially the spirit of the prophet. So whatever they did in the past lifetime, they'll do in the current lifetime. But as I said, there's still spiritual intervention that can happen as well. So you gotta brace your minds for that. And they're all gonna have the mindset of striving for the truth unto death, man. So when it comes to the point where Esau starts to say, okay, there's gonna be a death penalty for those who don't take the chip, then most of us are gonna die. Some of us are gonna die. Some of us are gonna be pilgrims and then caught later and then die. Some of us will be close to death, but then we'll have spiritual intervention. But anyways, let's continue because this is focused on the breakdown. So verse 9, Revelation 13 and 9, if any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. The saints again representing the Israelites, even more so, more specifically, you could even say the elect as well, because they're the ones of whom are actually trying to be perfect in Yahweh Hashem Yeshua's eye. Now, of course, our righteousness is as filthy rags, but we're actually making a constant effort to please Yahweh Hashem Yeshua in the power that He does give us. So that's our patience and our faith, man. In Yahweh Hashem Yeshua, that he that leads into captivity shall go into captivity, and that's, of course, it's easy to understand. Means what Esau's done to us, the pain, the suffering, the affliction that Esau's done unto us. Again, transatlantic slave trade, the slavery of the Latin tribe as well. There's also the slavery of the Native American Indians, which I'm doing some history on as well. Point being is that Esau's going to be killed as well. Esau's going to go into captivity too. So, we're doing some kind of an exchange here. It's like, okay, Esau, you're done, you're doing your business, now it's our turn. That's essentially what that scripture means. So I don't really need to break that down. That's easy and self-explanatory. So I said from verse 11 is going to be the part 2, because I want to keep these digestible, man. This one's almost an hour, 51 minutes. But, we'll close out the Yaratazar. I need to go do another video eventually as well. I will do the part 2, I will do the part 2 Yaratazar. And yeah, man, finish this breakdown. So yeah, Shalom, Yahweh Hashem Yeshua Brakatha, and Yaratazar. We'll do the part 2, and link it together, man. And that's going to be from verse 11 to verse 18. So yeah, Shalom and Yaratazar, that you have understood this, man. So all through the spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yeshua. So yeah, Shalom, Yahweh Hashem Yeshua Brakatha, Kah Halayim La, Yahweh Hashem Yeshua, Hashem Rachal Kudash, and double honors to the greatness and apostles once more. Thadiyah, Yeshua for the strength and order to make this video. Shalom.